It's my time, this my truth, so let me tell it how it is. See my story, his glory, I survived so you can live. Hell spoke, they told lies, now you gon' finally hear my side. Step to the mic, take back my seat, oh yeah, we lied. Hell, you spoke for too long, drag my name for too long. Thought you keep me mute, but no you won't now. It's my turn, so shut the hell up, the hell up, the hell up.
Hey, welcome back to Shut the Hell Up with yours truly, Miss Mo. I want to send a special shout out to you, amazing producer, Mr. Fossil. I am so glad to be back on the mic with you and sharing my story and giving God his glory. It's been a while, and yeah, COVID crept back into my home, but this round was way easier than the first round. It only took my voice and left me coughing for a while, but it is good to be back in this place where I can use my voice again so that I can inspire, encourage, and motivate those that have come through or dealing with some of the trauma that I've dealt with in my life. But first and foremost, I want to say I missed you all, and I hope all is going well with you and that you're finding yourself in the best place ever. In spite of what's going on out in the world, all we can do is pray and trust in God. But in the meanwhile, let's work on ourselves. Let's work on our healing. And let's work on being better people for God, for ourselves, and for each other. I am so again, I'm so blessed to be back before you. I hope you've been listening to my other episodes, because the pages are turning and my story is unveiling and exposing some traumatic things, horrific, sad, painful, and yet at the same time some triumphant and some joyful and exciting things that has taken place in my life. So it's not all bad, it's some good, but without the bad you won't be able to appreciate the good, and without the good you wouldn't have learned anything from the bad. So I just truly thank you all. And my topic on tonight is broken innocence. Yeah, one of the topics that's hard for us as people to talk about is having our innocence being robbed from us as we were children. And some of us, it happened in our teenage years, adult years, but mine started at my childhood, at my beginning. And yeah, I went through some things in life where I was sexually abused by people and even my parents and family members. And so I know that I'm not alone, but I know sometimes people struggle even to this day with those broken innocence on the inside because they are too ashamed, afraid, and sad, and don't want to be triggered by what happened to them as a child. I am so glad I'm in the place where I can tell my story and not feel victimized, but feel victorious because God has brought me through so many things and so much pain and agony. Even times I wanted to kill myself because the pain was overwhelming and overbearing. But I'm glad I lived to tell my story. And so tonight, I am opening up my life and turning the next pages. I remember before entering kindergarten, I was sexually molested by my favorite uncle who was a pimp. One of his prostitutes, we called her Aunt Blue. Yeah, Aunt Blue. Aunt Blue was a she was a beautiful woman, light-skinned with beautiful eyes, but she had some issues that I don't know if my uncle knew about it, but I learned about her issues. And it happened upon the time that my mom was as I stated in my other episodes, my mother was a very abusive woman, and that she always made it her business to beat the hell out of me. And when I say beat, this is not a tap or a little spanking here and there. No, she literally beat the hell out of me. Black eyes, stitching cords that took my skin off of my back and off of my buttocks and went across my vagina and the top of my head and stomped and dragged and kicked and punched me in the face and the lip where my lips were swollen and bleeding and just, it was bad. It was bad. And so when people watch your parents mistreat you and dog you and abuse you and reject you and abandon you and throw you into corners and walls, pedophiles, that is their opportunity to take advantage of the broken child. And that I was. And so Aunt Blue, whenever they would visit St. Louis, Missouri by way of Atlanta, Georgia, she often saw my mother be cruel and mean and hard and just downright disrespectful towards me. And I remember before they arrived to St. Louis, I had just been beaten by my mother. And for those of you who don't know, I really believe that my mom was either bipolar or schizophrenic, because she was never herself at any given time. She flipped so many times that you didn't know who she was, and I'm sure she didn't know herself. And so my heart goes out to people that are suffering and struggling with mental illness. And I pray that you get the help that you need, because those that didn't have the help, and I'm speaking on my mom, and I'm not speaking in a tone of degrading her or judging her, but she needed help and she didn't seek for it, because back then black people didn't believe in therapy or sitting in a psychiatrist's office or even taking medication for their mental illness. But my mother's medication was heroin, drugs, alcohol, and just cigarettes and weed and just whatever she put in her body. I guess that was her way of coping with her past, her pain, her abuse, her rejections and abandonments. And so because she had nowhere and no one was able to carry her cross with her and take on her burdens and help her through that, I suffered. And I just want to talk about my story because I know my siblings, they have their own version. And I lost my oldest sister January 2nd, 2022 at the top of the year. And so we weren't on speaking terms, but if she was living, she would have her own story as well. So I want to talk about my story. My mother didn't have a reason to beat me. It's just whatever her mind told her to do, she found her way to it. And she would just call me to her and slap me and begin to curse me out and begin to beat me. Or there were times we were outside playing and she will call us in and make us bend down and stoop for hours. I mentioned that before. Or there was times that she just will say, I wish you were dead and I wish I would have closed my legs and broke your neck. Or there was times that she would spit in my face for no apparent reason. So there was not a lot of things that I was able to do as a child because of the kind of mother that I had. I was so afraid of her. And so one night she went on her escapade of being abusive, and she began to beat me and beat me. And so when my uncle came into town, my favorite uncle, she switched to this quiet mother, and she didn't show a lot of her violent ways because of her fear of her oldest brother, Uncle B. He didn't play with anybody. As I stated before, he would beat his women, and watching him beat them and hang them out of windows and black their eyes and stomp them and drag them through the home. And I'm shaking and crying and biting my nails because we just never knew when one of them will piss him off and he will go crazy on them. So my mother knew that she had to be on her best behavior when he was in town. And I kind of loved that because I had a break, just for a few minutes, a break, without her putting her hands, her feet, her mouth, extension cords, belts, broomsticks across my body for no apparent reason. And so Aunt B saw me sitting sadly in the corner and my mother cursing me out. And so my uncle said, she's going with me tonight. And there was nothing that my mother could say because when he spoke, everyone shut up and they did what he said, and they better not had a word back. That's what I loved about his presence. It kind of made me feel secure and safe and protected, even though I was too afraid to tell him everything that was happening to me and had happened to me. But I loved the fact that when he was around, I had a break from being abused and from the evilness of my mother. Uncle B drove me back to their hotel room, and that's the first time he showed me $100 bill. He had this drawer full of hundreds, and he was telling me that he wanted me to be great in life. He asked me again, he always asks me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I used to say, I want to be a teacher. I want to be an actress. I want to be a singer. I want to be a model. But oftentimes I would always say, I want to be a teacher. And so he began to say to Aunt Blue, watch her. I'm going to hang out and I'll be back. And she would be like, all right, B, I'll do it. And I remember sitting in the hotel room and it looked like she didn't know what she wanted to do with herself. And I remember her telling me it's time to go to bed. And I laid out on the bed couch that was in the living room. And just as I was getting ready to go to sleep, she got in the bed with me. And I remember my little heart pounding because I didn't know what she was doing in the bed with me. What was the meaning of it? What was her purpose? Because when you were that young, I was 5 years old, it's not much that you know about adults or their actions because you don't have that knowledge and that understanding of their ways and their errors. And so when she got in the bed with me, she took my hand and began placing it on her breast. Then she took it down between her legs and she began to say, rub me, touch me. And I remember shaking as if winter had entered the room. I was so cold and fearful and I was shaking. And all I could think about in my mind is, I want my mom. I want to go home. I was so afraid because I didn't know what to do in that moment. I didn't have the mind to get up and run. I didn't scream. I just laid there silent and following her instructions. And I remember her telling me over and over to do this, that, and the others. And she got on top of me, this little bitty, skinny, frail little girl, and this grown woman on top of her. And she began kissing me and doing things with my body that it frightened me. As, let me say this, I was so frightened that I literally jumped out of my body and stood there and watched her take advantage of me. And when she was done, she told me, you better not tell anyone or you're going to get beaten just like how your mom beat you. She will beat the hell out of you. And me being afraid of my mom, I didn't want that. She used the very thing she knew that I suffered and struggled with to silence me and to make me fearful. And that was my mother. When my uncle returned, I was shaking and I was extra quiet. And he kept asking me, what's wrong? And I couldn't answer. I tried to smile, but my whole mind, it was never the same. So when he took me home and I waited until they went back to Atlanta, and I went to my mother, and as scared and fearful and traumatized as I was then, I wanted my mother to know what happened to me. Hoping that she would take me in her arms and that she would protect me and fight for me. And the minute I opened my mouth and said to her, Mom, Aunt Blue touched me. She touched my cookies. And the look on my mother's face when I tell you the anger that was in her eyes, in her face, in her posture, I thought she got angry about what happened to me, but she got angry because I was telling her what happened to me, and she did not believe me. She opened her mouth and quickly the words flew out. Shut the hell up, you lying bitch. You touched her. You a molester. You a rapist. And I looked at her and my mouth fell open. And I said, no ma'am, she touched me and made me touch. And she said, you're the rapist. And she put her finger in my face and pointed her nail into the center of my forehead. And she said, if you tell that lie to anybody, and if you get her in trouble, I will kill you. She said, now get the F out of my face, you skinny bitch. Nobody touched you. I remember walking away with tears rolling down my face. I went into the bedroom and sat on the bed and I cried. I cried my eyes out. I felt so alone. I felt so abandoned and rejected, and I felt like a throwaway. I felt like trash and disgusting. I felt fearful. And all of these emotions were harassing me and bullying me and tormenting me that I could barely think straight. So I left the door open that every time Uncle B and Aunt Blue would come to St. Louis, she did it over and over and over again. That when I entered kindergarten, I didn't like little girls, but my eyes were chasing after beautiful, light-skinned grown women. Can you imagine that? 5, 6-year-old, and your mind is on kissing a woman? Your mind is on sleeping with a woman? You begin to touch yourself and visualize being touched at 5 and 6 years old. It seemed like sex became a big part of our lives because I would watch my mother take my brother in the bathroom, shut the bathroom door, and back then we had the little peepholes that you can look through in the doors. And I would peep through and watch her do things to his body. And he's standing there with fear all in his eyes and not knowing what to do, having your mom take advantage of you and not knowing what to do with it. My mother started leaving this man with us who she said was my dad's nephew. And he would make me and my deceased sister get in the bed and spoon each other, and he would get behind us and put his penis between our legs and hump us and hump us and hump us until he ejaculates, and then make us get up, put our panties on, and get outside and play. Messed up in the mind. not having protection, not having enough love, not having someone to fight for you, struggling with an identity that was not your own. Because I can remember running around saying outside, I'm going to marry a white man when I get grown, excited about having a marriage with a man in my mind. And once all of the sexual abuse played out in my life, that vision faded and faded and faded till all I had on my mind is being with a woman. My mother went to prison for her and her brother violating her second oldest brother, violating a white woman in the alley, raping her, beating her, and my mother taking a wire hanger, jamming it up in her vagina and thought that she killed the woman. But by the grace of God, she lived to testify, and my mother was dragged into prison. I remember my grandmother taking us one time to visit, and that was the first time I saw, besides the time me seeing my mother in the bed with 4 other women, and they were naked with their panties and bras on the floor, clothes on the floor. It was the first time I saw women sitting on each other's lap and kissing each other in the auditorium, this big old, like a basketball, like a gym. And they were giving us Christmas boxes, which were pajamas. And my mother had begged my grandmother to please bring us up there so that we can get a gift. And I remember staring at the women that were sitting on each other's laps and kissing each other. And going home and wrestling with myself, with the visions of what had happened to me and what I saw them do. My mother's good friend that she used to smoke weed and hang out with will watch us while my aunt goes to work. And she began making me and my oldest sister and my cousin do some things to her body. And let me say this. You can think of this episode as being horrible, embarrassing, and nasty, and whatever. But this is my story. This is what I had to live through. This is what God had to heal me from. This is what tormented me and tortured me and triggered me and traumatized me for majority of my life. Because for years, I had struggled with my sexuality. I had struggled with my identity, and I was mad as hell because I was given something that I didn't choose for myself. And I understand that some of you believe that you were born a lesbian or born a gay man, and that you liked little girls when you were little, and you liked little boys when you were little, and your desire, nobody had to touch you. You just knew this was you. But for me, I was angry for years. For years, because I was given something that I didn't know how to give back. I had dealt with relationships, and I wasn't 100% in it because I was fighting I will give them my all, but I will torment myself when I will go in the bathroom to take a bath or shower, and I will scrub my skin, trying to scrub it off my body because I felt filthy. I felt like the first time when my Aunt Blue touched me. I felt disgusting, like the first time my mother called me a molester and a rapist. And I didn't know how to get away from that. I didn't know how to fight it. I didn't know how to let it go. I didn't know how to live without it. So I will be in relationships and I will love these women and give them my all, but then I will be in hell. Because in my mind, I will be battling that this is not me. This is not me. I joined the church in my early 20s, 24, thinking that I will be healed, thinking that I will be delivered and changed from this, because I had started before I joined the church sleeping with one of my good friends, and we both had boyfriends, and we were secretly being lovers. And I remember I had to always drink to be in that moment with her. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it, but at the same token, I hated it. Because I felt, again, like I was given something that I didn't ask for, and I was given something that I didn't choose for myself. So I was living somebody else's demons that became my very own. And women will cry and tell me how they're in love with me and how I'm hurting them because I won't give them all of me. But they didn't understand that that was not all of me, that was part of me, because what was planted in me. But the other part of me, I didn't want that. I had church folks call me demons and nasty and filthy spirit, and they didn't even know half of the battle. I had the men of God started fingering me the minute I joined the church and telling me he had to make me love a man and not a woman. Telling me how I will burn in hell and how God hates me for this nasty, filthy spirit that I was. Ashamed of myself, beating up on myself, holding my head down, not being able to look myself in the mirror because I felt so disgusting. I remember going to my therapist, which was a short visit, because she said, "You don't need me. You have the answers already." And telling her, I threw anointing oil on my body, and I prayed and I fasted. I consecrated. I called out the spirit, and it's still there. And she said, "Have you ever thought about it? Maybe it's you." I said, "It's not me. It was given to me, and I don't know how to give it back." Oh, what a battle to hear people say, "Is she gay? Do she like women?" I love me some men. I love a man. But my biggest battle was not wanting a woman. And I am being so transparent because let me tell you this. So many people have committed suicide. So many people have taken drugs. So many people have been ridiculed. And so many people have been thrown out as trash for choosing to love who they wanted to love. I was even lied on. I remember the show that came on TV right after, what is the show? My daughter was on this show, and she was telling the people that I hated her because she was a lesbian, and I told her she was going to hell and I was homophobic. And I remember texting her saying, did you ever tell the people that your mom been with women majority of her life? That she struggled with her identity? Yes, I told you because the church told me I was going to hell, and I didn't want that for you. I didn't want you to suffer what I suffered. I didn't want you being degraded. I didn't want people downing you and spitting on you and calling you filthy and just treating you like crap. The things that I have gone through because of what I was giving is ludicrous, horrific, and I wouldn't wish it on no one. For years, I was running from this spirit. For years, I was wrestling with this spirit. For years, I was angry because I was given something that was not mine. And I didn't get the opportunity to live my life the way I saw it as a little girl. Me being married, me having a relationship with a man. Being taken advantage of, being used to hurt others. Wait until you hear the rest. This is just a little of what I'm giving right now. I had to learn that God loved me the way that I was. I remember saying to God, why didn't you stop her? Even my own mother violated me. Me and my sister that's passed away, we went to Spain Middle School, and my other siblings as well. And every time we would come home with our bangs, with the wind blew it here and there and all around our head, my mother swore up and down that we were having sex. And every day she would make us go upstairs. She would cuss us out. She would slap us in our face and make us go upstairs. We had our school books in our arms, our coats on, jackets on, and even when we didn't need a jacket, we had our books. And she would make us go to the room and take off our clothes, butt naked. And one would have to stand there and watch her dig her fingers in and out of our vaginas. And when she was done with my sister, she would say, "Get on the bed, you bitch." And I had to open my legs and having my mother's fingers ejaculating in and out, not ejaculating, in and out of my vagina. And having to look her in her face, and the looks that she would give was so evil that I would throw my hands across my eyes and just let her do what she was doing. And when she was done, she would say, "Get up and put your clothes on." I hated Detroit for the wind. I hated the wind because of what it cost me. See, you never know what someone is going through until they open their mouths and tell you. And not everybody is concerned about what others are going through, because sometimes people have their own demons, their own struggles, their own pain, their own dysfunctionalism. But I went through a lot with what I was giving. It caused me to masturbate. Thank God that is not my story today. It caused me to have minds of desiring people, that women that didn't even know I was desiring them, women that didn't even know I was looking at them, women that didn't even know I wanted them. When you don't heal your childhood wounds, pains, sufferings, they will continue to terrorize you as long as you live, until you put an ending to it. And it wasn't until I had the last relationship in my life that I realized that right now in my life, I just want me and God. Right now in my life, I'm not interested in anyone. And I got a chance to go through that relationship and realize, that's not for me. Especially when I found out that this person was HIV positive and thought that they were going to leave me with a disease. But glory be to God that it didn't work. That it didn't work. I am so glad. I am so glad that no matter how my pain started and everything it was intended to do to destroy me and disrupt my life, that God saw fit to bring me through it all. And I want to say to you, stop being hard on yourself. Stop beating up on yourself. Stop being ashamed of what you had to endure, because I had learned that why not me? Why was it purposeful for me to take on that? Because God wanted somebody to know that you can still be kind and loving, that He will still love you just as you are, and that He will still want you no matter what trash has been dumped on you. Will I ever say that I will not ever be with a woman? Right now, my answer is no, I will not be. But because I don't venture off into my tomorrows the way some people may do, I take one day at a time, and every day so far it's been no. I may not have had the opportunity to choose then, but I get the right to choose now. My answer is no. I wanted to share my story, and I'm not finished, but I wanted to give you a little something. Don't let people use your pain against you. Don't let people use your triggers to cage you, to control you, to abuse you, to hurt you, to mislead and misguide you, and to make you feel worthless. Although I didn't understand my pain and my struggle and all of the abuse that I endured from a child up, but I understand why. Because I am here to tell you, you are not alone. And if I made it and still making it, you can too. God is so good to me, and He has healed me from those times and still healing me. And still healing me. I am not defined by my pain or my sufferings. I'm defined by my resilience and the power that I took to rise above it all. I am defined by purpose. That God helped me and healed me, and I am here to help you get healed too. All of us were given a burden, a cross to carry. And your cross may not be mine, and mine may not be yours. But we're not to judge one another, but pray for one another that we get the help and the guidance and the love we need so that we can overcome the demons that were destined and designed to destroy us. Oh, wait till you hear the next page. I want to leave you with this note. Love your pain to purpose. Love your pain to purpose. And don't use your pain against you, but allow your purpose to be used for you. I forgive everyone that took advantage of me, everyone that violated me, everyone that thought it was good to molest, rape, and take advantage of me. I forgive those that are dead and alive, and I forgive myself for hurting me with what I was taught to hurt me with. I love me so much now. I love me so much now. And I love the fact that I can choose for myself. And I can say yes and no. And that no matter what or who I desire to be with, I love me whole. God bless you all. I hope I said something to inspire and to encourage you. I hope that you look at my story and that you thank God for what He's brought me through, because I'm always thanking Him. And even though I've come through hell and high waters, I've learned not to judge another man or woman's story, because you don't know what people go through to get to where they are now, or to suffer the way that they are suffering. It's just that God has given me the strength and confidence to tell my story, and some people will never tell theirs. But I hope I inspire you enough to open your mouth and free your demons so that they will no longer hold you bound or hostage. I am free to tell my story because I am free to be me. I love you all. God bless you and have a wonderful night. And remember, be kind be loving, and be forgiving. Until the next time.